music, science. It's the Amoeba People Podcast. Greetings and welcome to the Amoeba People Podcast, the show where science and music collide. All right, collide, as I say each episode, is probably a bit on the extreme side. It's really more like science is the fresh, ground, expertly roasted coffee beans, and music is the purified hot water poured over those fresh grounds, releasing the incredible flavor and allowing the gorgeous, rich aroma to permeate the room. And this podcast is that very first sip of that nectar of the gods, which we mortals call coffee. Can you tell I'm recording this in the early morning? My name is Ray Hedgepeth, the singer-guitarist of the incorrigibly nerdy science rock band, the Amoeba People. And on today's episode, we are traveling back in time to the Mesozoic Era, the age of the dinosaurs. And our tour guide, as we travel back into this deep, mysterious time period, is Jared Heuck, the preparator of the Raymond Museum. Yes, my new favorite museum in California, though it's only new to me. It's been around for a long time. Jared's job is to prep the fossils that come into the museum. And to me, his title, Preparator, sounds like a species of dinosaur, doesn't it? So we're going to talk about how you prepare a fossil and get it museum ready, but mainly we're going to talk about the reign of the dinosaurs and what the Mesozoic Era is all about. We're not just talking about a sliver of time here. It's not like, I like 80s music, and weren't the 90s fun? The Mesozoic Era spans 150 million years. It's broken into three periods, the first being the Triassic, the second, and best known, at least by name, is the Jurassic, and the third is the Cretaceous, where we begin to see Tyrannosaurus rex and many of the other well-known beasts of the Mesozoic. Jared is going to help us make sense of this massive stretch of time. And don't worry, I also asked him the really important questions like, which two dinosaurs would you love to see in a fight? And if you could build your ideal dinosaur, what would that monstrosity look like? Yeah, the important questions. We'll also be breaking down our song Rockin the Mesozoic, a tune that we first performed at Dino Fest at the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County, one of the coolest museums in the country. What an awesome feeling to premiere a dinosaur song surrounded by dinosaur bones. And in fact, we recently played this year's Dino Fest, another fun weekend, and we have some rare live audio to share with you. Where we usually play is in this glass pavilion, so it's kind of hard to get audio that comes out good because it's so sound bounces around everywhere in there. But we got a pretty decent recording here, and let's just take a quick listen to a snippet of Rockin the Mesozoic from this year's Dino Fest.
Just takes an asteroid to really show.
Wow, that is a really echoey room. I'd forgotten how echoey it was in there. But hey, it came out kind of decent given the fact that it's a giant glass pavilion. So that was so much fun. Thanks to the Natural History Museum of LA County for having us out yet again to Dino Fest. We love that event. And if you've never been to the Natural History Museum in LA, oh my gosh, like you're missing out. Now, if you live in the LA area, you've never been there, there's just no excuse. But if you're an out-of-towner, anytime you're in town, you got to come by and check it out. It's pretty awesome. So, and if you're there on Dino Fest weekend, which takes place usually in September, I believe, September, October, somewhere in there, depending. Next year is going to be their 5th anniversary of Dino Fest, so that's kind of fun. Come on out and, see the Amoeba People and all the incredible collections. And notice how I put us first, as if we're the draw. No, the dinosaur bones are the draw. All the incredible collections of minerals and rocks and everything, that's the draw. And, of course, the museum itself. But, you might see us, too. Okay, so let's break down Rockin the Mesozoic. Here we go. I don't remember where the idea initially came from for our song Rockin the Mesozoic, but I think it was because I wanted something that would repeatedly list the 3 periods of the Mesozoic Era, and that's the teacher in me. But the songwriter in me doesn't like to just simply load down a song with facts. The songwriter in me wants to tell a story. And if you listen to our last episode about our song The Terrible Lizards, you heard our drummer Dustin Jordan and me talking about how an early version of that song had dinosaurs talking in the first person and giving details about themselves. Well, that idea didn't make it into that song, but it's most likely that concept that stuck with me when I began to write Rockin the Mesozoic. You often hear paleontologists say things like, fossils tell a story. Well, with that idea, something came to me. What if you were in a dinosaur hall looking at some dinosaur fossils and the fossils themselves began to tell you their story? Then I imagine what they might want to give us humans as a little perspective. What would they say? How would they tell their story? How would they look at us? How would they view us? Of course, this is personification to an extreme degree, but that's sometimes the best way to tell a story. And from that concept, I started developing a guitar riff to go with that idea, and then the song just took off from there. So first, we're going to listen to a little snippet of the demo I did of the song, which I sent to Ryan, our bass player, and Dustin, our drummer, so they could learn it.
You might think you're big now, look at how you rule the earth, but it just takes an asteroid to really show you what you're worth now.
The chorus.
Triassic, Jurassic, Cretaceous, don't matter where your place is. Triassic, Jurassic, Cretaceous, our timeline is spacious. Balls in a museum, I might look stoic, but we're still rockin' the Mesozoic.
Okay, time to translate that whole thing to the electric guitar. Time to bring in Ryan Mosley on the bass, who will now double that part on the lower register. Nice. Now, how about a little Dustin Jordan on the drums? Okay, now it's really coming together, so let's put all 3 meebs together and hear how we sound. And as always, we will hear the completed version of the song at the end of this episode after my interview with Jared Heuck of the Raymond Alf Museum of Paleontology. But before we get to that interview, let's break for a word from today's sponsor.
Thank you for visiting Mesozoic Healing and Wellness Centers, Southern California's premier provider of healing, wellness, and beauty products and services. Excuse me, miss.
Yeah?
Would you like to sample one of our 94 varieties of Cretaceous kombucha?
Oh my god, yes.
Here, try this one in a Mesozoic mason jar.
Yummy.
Looks like you could also use one of our organic Archaeopteryx anti-aging facial treatments.
Oh my god, rude.
Here. And you, sir, you could benefit from some Triassic Top Knot tonic and a dollop of our Brachiosaur beard balm.
Wow, man. Oops.
Sounds like someone needs to try our post-Paleozoic probiotic products.
Okay, man.
Mesozoic Healing and Wellness Centers. The only thing standing between you and us is mass extinction.
Jared Heuck is Preparator at the Raymond Museum in Claremont, California. His last name is spelled Heuck, and to help me remember how to pronounce it, I think, what would a Cockney quarterback say? Heuck! Yeah, I know, sorry. We talked about so many cool things, though, about communicating science to the public, about the process of preparing fossils, and about the immensity of the Mesozoic Era, the reign of the dinosaurs, up until about 66 million years ago, when scientists think an asteroid led to the extinction of 75% of all species on the planet. Jared has this great calm about him, an almost deceptively laid-back vibe, because once you get him going, the knowledge he possesses is astounding, and the joy that he gets from his work truly inspired me. So without further delay, here is my interview with the amazing Jared Heuck. Again, my apologies.
So the Mesozoic is a pretty broad period of time. It's about 251 to about 65 million years. So we'll call it 250 and 65. Mm-hmm. And the reason any of these time periods are divided the way they are is to show changes in either the geology or the paleontology at that moment in time.
Okay.
So for example, everyone's familiar with dinosaurs go extinct. Mm-hmm. Whether they know it's the Cretaceous or the end Mesozoic, it doesn't matter. They know that they went extinct. That marks the end of the Cretaceous because it's this period of mass extinction. We've had multiple periods of mass extinction in Earth's history.
I walked through them in your museum.
Yeah, they're all lined
zapped
up
every time. There's a red laser beam that zaps you every time.
I might have to look at that one.
Seriously, though, when you're at the ALF Museum, they have this kind of circular, or maybe it's an oval shape to the museum, and you walk through the different time periods. And as you go through each one, there's kind of like this red light indicating that you're in a new time period. And so, of course, I couldn't help myself. Every time I walked through one, I pretended like I was being zapped. I am a grown adult. It might not seem that way, but physically I began to shake and act as though I had been zapped. And every time you go through like a mass extinction, they've got that red beam there. It's kind of a nice reminder. I encourage you, actually, as you're walking to the museum, to pretend as though you're getting zapped. I know the staff will appreciate it.
So we're actually going through the sixth extinction right now in our lifetimes. Mm-hmm. There's already been 5. Mm-hmm. Each of those extinctions marks the end of an era or epoch or stage, just depending on what sort of life forms we're looking at. So the Triassic actually begins at the end of a mass extinction, one of the largest that we've ever had. About 70% of terrestrial vertebrates went extinct, and 90% of marine invertebrates went extinct. Just huge swaths of life just completely gone. And that marks the beginning of the Mesozoic. And that's the Triassic. So the Triassic is going to go from about 250 to 200 million years, so it's a rather short time period. And the end of the Triassic is going to be met with climate change. It's actually a mass extinction brought upon by a changing climate. It's something that we're still studying, and I'm not going to pretend to be an expert in it, but we do have the loss of a large amount of life, not as big as the Permo-Triassic extinction, but a lot of terrestrial vertebrates, I think around 30%, maybe a little less, went extinct. And so that moment marks for geologists and paleontologists to say, okay, there's the end. Next period, there's been a shift in something. And then that gets us into the Jurassic, which everyone's really familiar with.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
There's like a movie or something. Anyway, so yeah, Jurassic. This is the period that a lot of people are really familiar with. It's got things like Stegosaurus, Allosaurus, Dilophosaurus,
but not Tyrannosaurus, like in the movie.
Not Tyrannosaurus. Tyrannosaurus isn't going to be around for, let's see, oh god, well over 100 million years.
Oh my gosh.
Tyrannosaurus Rex specifically is not even close to being around on our planet yet. And similar to the end Triassic, the end Jurassic, which is, I hope I get this right, I want to say 150 million years. Yeah, 145, somewhere around there. we didn't necessarily have a mass extinction at the end of the Jurassic, but we still have a changing climate. The end Jurassic is marked by increased sea level, the creation of a lot of inland seas, which is actually where we find a lot of our Cretaceous dinosaurs, which is the last period of the Mesozoic, which goes from 145 to 65. So it's, what would that be, 85 million year period.
So the predominance of inland seas coincided with higher sea levels and water moving
Changing
inland
climate,
and changing
yeah.
climate. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the
Fascinating.
Mesozoic typically is going to be marked by much higher levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So it's going to be warmer. You're going to have a lot more vegetation. Near the second half of the Mesozoic, you're not going to have any ice caps. I actually don't recall if there were any in the Triassic. The end Cretaceous is the extinction of the dinosaurs, but geologically, we see evidence of a bolide impact.
This term, bolide impact, is a geologic reference to a large impactor, in this case, an asteroid. And, of course, the asteroid he's referring to is the one that struck approximately 66 million years ago, leading to the extinction of the dinosaurs. Or, as those cosmic poets, the amoeba people, put it, you might think you're big now. Look at how you rule the Earth. But it just takes an asteroid to really show you what you're worth.
And so we can see this layer, and we can say below this layer is Cretaceous, is Mesozoic. Above this layer is Cenozoic, no dinosaurs. The topic of dinosaur extinction is really interesting because a lot of paleontologists are still researching that time period. What exactly was happening? And usually when you talk to people who are in the know about dinosaurs, not even necessarily a paleontologist, but someone will say, well, the dinosaurs went extinct from an asteroid impact. And someone else will say, actually, it was the diversity of dinosaurs was decreasing before the asteroid impact.
Right, yeah.
Which is partly true. For some families, it was decreasing. For others, it wasn't.
Okay.
Also, during that time period, we have a very high level of volcanism, putting out a lot of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. As we see from today, more CO2 means a warmer planet. So you're driving climate change in that way. In reality, it probably wasn't any one of those three things. It wasn't just decreasing diversity. It wasn't just increased carbon dioxide and warming, and it wasn't just an asteroid impact. Usually, you're going to have a combination of multiple things that are going to lead to a mass extinction.
Right.
And that was most likely what it was. A lot of people will argue which one had a greater effect, but I think it's kind of a moot point.
Yeah.
It's a contribution from all of the above.
So one thing I've learned now talking with scientists over the years with the amoeba people and now recently doing this podcast is they've got so much information, but they only share a certain portion of it because people tend to ask the same questions. So I wanted to know, is there something about dinosaurs or the Mesozoic era in general that you want more people to know about, or to have? What's something that blows your mind when you think about it? And when I asked him that, his answer completely blew my mind.
We all think of these awesome dinosaurs like Tyrannosaurus and Stegosaurus, and in reality, if we're looking at this from a deep time perspective, human beings, even prehistoric human beings, are closer in time to Tyrannosaurus than Tyrannosaurus is to Stegosaurus.
What?
So
I know, like the moment you said that, I know that's true because I know now that makes sense, but I'm like,
it's weird to think of. We think of dinosaurs as occupying this specific slice of time from A to B, and then we show up later at D, E, F, whatever.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But you're working on, this massive spectrum of geologic time, and it's not these like beautifully, perfectly cut sequences. Things are stretched out, and the difference between a Stegosaurus and a Tyrannosaurus is Jurassic to Cretaceous. That's in the history of Earth. That's not a long time. That's 50 to 100 million years. Our Earth is 4.5 billion years old. That's nothing.
Right.
And we're a flash in the pan at this point.
Wow, that is
You blew my mind, but that's super cool, though. But it's like super cool to think that we're closer to Tyrannosaurus than Tyrannosaurus is to Stegosaurus. Like, I'm going to tell everybody I know that now. Like,
seriously, and you should go tell everybody you know too. I mean, that really did blow my mind. And when I looked it up on the U.S. Geological Survey website, they mentioned that the Stegosaurus had been extinct. Now, the Stegosaurus is a Jurassic period dinosaur, of course, and it had been extinct for 80 million years before the Cretaceous era T-Rex came onto the scene. So with an 80 million year difference, we are only at 66 million years away from T-Rex. So we are indeed closer to the Tyrannosaurus Rex than the Tyrannosaurus Rex is to Stegosaurus. Go tell everybody.
I mentioned dividing the Mesozoic into Triassic, Jurassic, Cretaceous, and that these extinctions and climate changes being the dividing factors between all these periods. But what's really the dividing factor is the presence or absence of different invertebrates, because they're very sensitive to changing climate. And so we're able to use these little unexciting animals to figure out how our climate has changed over time.
right. The little guys. Don't forget the little guys.
Yeah, the underdogs.
Yeah.
You know, dinosaurs, they're big and they're dramatic and they're what gets our attention. But those little invertebrates, you know, an invertebrate has no backbone, no spine, and so you've got tons of them. There's so many more of them. They're smaller, and Jared explained to me you can find them everywhere, and that's why they're so important in determining what happened to the climate in the history of this time period.
They teach us so much.
Absolutely. They teach us way more about stuff like climate and a changing Earth than dinosaurs could, in a way. It's not a true blanket statement. And dinosaurs are cool, they're flashy, it's how museums get visitors, and it's what people are interested in. But yeah, you can't discount those little things.
Yeah, definitely not.
Large sample size, too.
Yeah, because there's so many of those little buggers.
Yep, they're all over the place.
Okay, it was time to move on to the big questions. I know you're like, wait, those weren't the big questions? No, the really big questions. Starting with the Jurassic Park question, okay? If we have the capability someday, should we bring back a T-Rex or any dinosaur for that matter? I needed to know Jared's take on it.
Where do you land on this topic? Should we, if we had the capability, should we bring back the T-Rex?
If we had the capability to perfectly replicate a T-Rex as it would have existed 66 million years ago. No.
Did you hear that pause? I mean, he repeated the entire question and added more detail than I could add, of course, because I don't remember to add all the detail, and made sure he understood it and then sat with it for a moment and then firmly gave his answer. I wish more people took the time to think about their responses the way Jared did with that. Because this is a big question. It might sound silly, it's the Jurassic Park question, but it really is the kind of question that we need to take a moment and think about before we just say yes, or in Jared's case,
no.
So why?
If I was discounting the ethical implications, I don't know. I think it basically just comes down to ethics. I mean, a more realistic scenario would be bringing back some Pleistocene megafauna, like the woolly mammoth. But you have to remember that our planet has changed significantly over the several billion years that it's been around. And to bring an animal back, say, for instance, for the purpose of studying it, you would not see what that animal was truly like. It would be like you getting teleported to an alien planet. You could probably still breathe, but everything around you would be weird. Right. You would not be yourself in that instance. So maybe if it was brought back for an autopsy, that'd be cool. For behavior, not so much.
We will bring you back just to cut you out.
That's pretty much, we're the evil scientists at that point.
Yeah.
I wouldn't stop anyone. But yeah, I fall on the side of no. And I think when we talk about Pleistocene megafauna, that's the ethics of that is actually being discussed now. Because we're recovering a lot of genetic material from these animals. And hypothetically, we could do something similar.
Right.
But would it be right to do it? To quote Ian Malcolm, scientists were so busy figuring out if they could, they didn't stop to ask if they should.
If they should, yeah.
Oh, and then as if to tie the perfect little bow on the end of his incredibly thoughtful response, he quotes Dr. Ian Malcolm from Jurassic Park, of course, played by Jeff Goldblum, and my favorite character in the series.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how close are we to having that capability? Are we at like 1 and we just think we're at 9?
I think we're at 1, and a lot of people think we're at a 7 or an 8.
Okay.
Because of the dinosaur chicken.
Yes, the dinosaur chicken. Now, I am certainly not qualified to explain the whole dinosaur chicken situation. And so what I'll do is I'll recommend that you go watch maybe Jack Horner's TED Talk on the dinosaur chicken, or engineering a chicken to become a dinosaur. But basically, it's not as extreme as it actually sounds. It has more to do with they were able to successfully, in the embryonic state, make a chicken look like it had a snout as opposed to having a beak. And that's because in its DNA sequence way back when, there's dinosaur DNA, essentially. That's my best totally underqualified way of explaining it. So definitely go check out some of those videos about it, though. It's pretty interesting stuff.
You know, it is true that birds are dinosaurs. Mm-hmm. Dinosaurs, in a way, didn't go extinct. They're still with us. We have non-avian dinosaurs had gone extinct. But avian dinosaurs survived. In the latest Triassic, early Jurassic, birds evolved from avian dinosaurs, and they survived the mass extinction. So in a way, these dinosaurs are still with us. And so there's this discussion about a chicken-saurus, dinosaur chicken, I don't know the proper moniker, where, hey, these genes are still in this animal. And these genes existed when dinosaurs existed. So all we have to do when this thing is an embryo, and again, this is getting into the fuzzy ethics,
right,
which again makes it much more complicated. But hey, we can switch this gene, now it has teeth. Pop this gene, now it has a tail. Give it some claws. And people say, we can build a dinosaur. No, you're just building a freaky chicken. It's not a dinosaur anymore. But that's my opinion. I think we're very far away, both technologically.
Freaky chicken.
Okay, as much as I seem to enjoy the freaky chicken joke, listening to myself sound like a complete dork is always lovely. But I didn't stop there. Why stop there? Okay, if we're going to bring these dinosaurs back, I asked Jared the big question beyond just bringing back the dinosaurs. Which 2 dinosaurs would you like to see fight in the ring? And he asked if he could not limit it to 2. He wanted something even bigger.
I think it would be cool for like a Ceratopsian battle royale.
Sweet.
I think
that sounds
2 is
cool.
hard, but I just like the
Okay,
image.
let's say can we do 3? Or is 3 not enough? Do you need like 10?
I was going to go like 16.
Okay.
You know,
All right, let's do 16.
Like a Fortnite match. just like a 16-player free-for-all.
Okay.
And so you get these Ceratopsians, which are, everyone knows Triceratops.
Right.
They're these just massive cows of the Cretaceous with frills and spikes and horns and like mounds of bones on their snouts and just these gnarled, cool animals. Most of their postcranial looks pretty similar. It's just their skulls that are just these fantastical things. They're so cool. I want to know which one would win.
Yeah.
Like Styracosaurus with its just one giant nasal horn, or would he be ousted by a Triceratops with the brow horns? Or, you know, Ionosaurus doesn't have horns on its face. It just has this like massive lump where a horn would be. Massive, just thing of bone. I want to see that thing at work. That's what I want.
Man, that's great. I'm so glad you didn't limit it to the 2. It's way better with 16.
Why? We're at hypothetical.
That's true. Yeah, at this point, you know, I'm just thinking of, you know, the promotional aspect of it. It's easier for them to promote 2 dinosaurs fighting. All the money that goes in, you know, to each manager, each trainer. I'm thinking the Don King angle. But
okay, and one final ridiculous question. If we're bringing back all these dinosaurs, what if you could be the ultimate Dr. Frankenstein and bring back a Frankendino, pulling parts from all different dinosaurs? What would your dinosaur look like?
Frankendino. We get these weird things about all these dinosaurs. Have you been to the Natural History Museum in LA?
Yep.
The Antarctic dinosaurs exhibit?
Yeah.
You have Cryolophosaurus with this like pompadour head crest. All these things are really what stand out to us. Raptors are these like nasty little pack animals with sickle claws. If I could make a Franken-dino, it would just have all of those things. I just want the most
Put in as
gnarled,
many as you can.
nasty, just go to town on it.
Because at this point, they're having battle royales already.
Give it tail spikes, give it a frill, give it a back sail, give it like Therizinosaurs are just these weird things with these fat pelvises that are kind of like squat, and they have these 3-foot-long claws on their hands. They weren't even carnivorous. Put some claws on it.
Sweet, why not?
Just make it weird.
Yeah. And then, so then if you, some of these parts, because of the sizes of the different dinosaurs, so like this claw might not, proportionally match to the size of, say, the sail on the back. That would be good, though, right?
Yeah, that's okay. I'm not going to be picky on that. I just want it all there.
Yeah.
It'd be like remember those Scholastic search books where it'd be like the big page spread and you had to find 7 buttons?
Right.
This would be like, find the Utah raptor.
Somewhere on this one dinosaur.
It's there, I swear.
Yeah. That's actually, wow, I think you and I have just developed a new idea for a children's picture book series.
Copyright.
Yeah.
Right here.
Copyright on this episode.
Do you see how great these paleontologists are? They are so much fun to hang out with and to be able to talk with. They love the science, but they also love the imaginary stuff too. They love having fun with it. They love educating people, but they also love letting you know that it's okay to laugh about it and think about it in strange and funny ways, because that is really the spirit of discovery, the spirit of being human. And our humor is such a part of that. So thank you so much, Jared, for spending the time to come on to this episode. The amoeba people appreciate you, and the dinosaurs of the Mesozoic era are better explained as a result of your presence on our episode today. So make sure you guys get out to the Raymond Alf Museum in Claremont, visit the incredible paleontologists there and their incredible collection, walk through that, the time periods and let yourself get zapped by each red light. It's super fun, and I promise you they'll think you're hilarious. And get out there and just say hi and say, hey, I heard you guys on the Amoeba People podcast. I love you guys. And let's get more people out to the Raymond Alf Museum because they're just incredible. And before we ended our interview, I did ask Jared if he would do us a huge favor and introduce our song.
My name is Jared Heuck. I'm the Preparator at the Raymond Alf Museum in Claremont, California. And this is Rockin the Mesozoic.
In the dinosaur hall might blow your mind, might make you feel small, but if you try to put us down just because we're extinct, let me drop a little thought that might make you rethink. You might think you're big now, look at how you rule the earth, but it just takes an asteroid to really show you what you're worth now. Triassic, Jurassic, Cretaceous, no matter where you place us. Triassic, Jurassic, Cretaceous. Our timeline is spacious, both in a museum might look stoic, but we're still rockin' the Mesozoic. Trying to wrap your head around the Mesozoic era. No you can't, so let me be clearer. 150 million years compared to you is like a molecule of water in a double wide pool. You might think you're big now, look at how you rule the earth, but it just takes an asteroid to really show you what you're worth now. Triassic, Jurassic, Cretaceous, no matter where you place us. Triassic, Jurassic, Cretaceous. Our timeline is spacious, both in a museum might look stoic, but we're still rockin' the Mesozoic. Dinosaur bones in the dinosaur hall and a comparison chart to make you really feel small. Dinosaur bones in the dinosaur hall and a comparison chart to make you really feel small. Dinosaur bones in the dinosaur hall and a comparison chart to make you where your place is. Triassic, Jurassic, Cretaceous. Our timeline is spacious. Bones in a museum might look stoic, but we're still rockin'. Triassic, Jurassic, Cretaceous. No matter where your place is. Triassic, Jurassic, Cretaceous. Our timeline is spacious. Bones in a museum might look stoic, but we're still rockin' the Mesozoic.
Thank you so much for listening to the Amoeba People podcast. If you like our show, please give us a rating on Apple Podcasts or any other podcast platform where you download this show. That's what helps people find out about this show more than anything else. Also, the more that you comment, the more people will become aware of what we're doing. And speaking of comments, Dino Dad, who wrote a great review of our latest album, The Fossil Record, as well as this podcast on his blog, commented with a corny science joke, which I will now read. Why shouldn't you be afraid of a Carnotaurus? Because they're mostly armless. You get it? The H is semi-silent. They're armless. See? Thank you, Dino Dad. That's a great one. And you too can post your favorite corny science joke in your review and we will read it on this show. Remember, you can buy our music on Bandcamp and iTunes, or Apple Music, I guess it's now called, and you can email us through our website. We would love to hear from you guys. You can also support this show on patreon.com, but most of all, you can help us by telling others about our show. It is working, you guys. We're serious about this. This show has been downloaded in over 20 different countries now. Wow, thank you so much. And hello to those of you out there listening outside of the U.S. The Amoeba people love you. Don't worry, American friends, we love you too. Until next time, everyone, onward!